Summary of The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Hiram gets a vision of his mother, Rose, performing a water dance when he is driving a carriage that is located near the River Goose. He accidentally drives the carriage off the road because of the vision, which throws him and his half-brother and boss Maynard into the water. Hiram, Maynard can't swim, so he calls for help. Hiram is sure that he is going to die soon. There is a sudden jump in time to when Hiram is a kid. He says that he has an amazing ability to remember things. Rose, who was sold, is the only person he can't remember. Right now, Hiram walks down the street, which is the part of Lockless plantation where the slaves live, to Thena's house. Thena is a mean woman. He is taken in by Thena though, and 1.5 years after he does, she tells him that her husband Big John died of a fever. Their kids were sold after John died. Wattel Walker, Hiram's dad, is the master of Lockless. It is said to Hiram that he is going to work in the house. Thena tells him not to forget that the white people are not his family. Soon, Howell throws a party, and Hiram is asked to do something fun for the guests by showing off his amazingly good memory. Dear Mr. Fields, Hiram's teacher, is very impressed by how smart he is and quickly starts teaching Hiram reading and math. At the same time, Virginia farms like Lockless are having trouble making money because tobacco prices are going down. As a result, more and more slaves are being sold into the Deep South. Howell tells Hiram that he is going to be Maynard's personal helper, which he says is an honor. The story jumps ahead 7 years to Hiram's 19th year. The fateful race day, the first day of the book, is coming up. Maynard is going to marry Corinne Quinn, who is the richest woman in Elm County. Howell set up the marriage. When Hiram wakes up early the next morning from a bad dream, he sees that Sophia's room lantern is on. Howell's brother Nathaniel has a young woman named Sophia as a concubine. Hiram talks to her for a short time, but he is so worried that he can hardly speak. That night, Hiram takes Maynard to the tracks for race day. There are a few free black people and a lot of slaves, but mostly white people from the area. Hiram meets Hawkins, Corinne's slave servant. Maynard tells Hiram to take him to a brothel because he is happy that his horse won. At the same time, Hiram walks into Freetown, which is the part of Starfall Town where free black people live. He has dinner with Georgie Parks, his wife Amber, and their new baby. As a gift, he carves a wooden horse for the baby. Hiram thinks Georgie is linked to the underground. He tells Georgie he wants to escape slavery and asks for help, even though he doesn't know what the underground is. Georgie says he has nothing to do with it and tells Hiram to be content with what he has. Hiram has a vision of Rose on the way home and crashes the carriage into the River Goose. He wakes up in a sunny room after being asleep for 3 days. He falls asleep and wakes up several times. When he does, Howell is there telling him that Maynard is dead. Sophia tells Hiram that he makes her think of the man she was with when she lived in Carolina after they go for a walk. Soon after, Corinne asks Hiram to meet with her because she has heard how smart he is and wants him to work for her. There isn't much Hiram can do about his fear of leaving Lockless. As Christmas approaches, the slaves at Lockless and other black people in the area talk about Hiram's grandmother, Santee Bess. A story says that Santee Bess freed herself and 48 other slaves by taking them back to Africa through the River Goose. Hiram thinks the story is ludicrous. When Hiram talks to Georgie about running away again, Georgie says she won't do it until he meets her in a week in the same place. He and Sophia agree to run away together the next day. After a week, they go to see Georgie but are surprised by Ryland's hounds, who are slave catchers. They are taken to jail together, but Sophia is taken away within a day. Hiram is then forced to share a cell with a 12-year-old boy and an old man who is being cruelly beaten and humiliated by the guards. Hiram is sold in the end and taken to a dark pit, where he stays for an unknown amount of time. He and some other black men are taken out into the bush at night and told to run for their lives while white men chase them. Hiram is always caught and put back in the pit, where the whole thing starts over. He does this over and over until one day, when he falls and is caught, Hawkins is there instead of the normal white men. As soon as Hiram wakes up, Corinne tells him that he escaped drowning in the Goose because of a powerful force known as conduction. This same force also helped Santee Bess free everyone else. She tells Hiram that he is now free, but he has to serve. As Hiram gets better and is able to eat and stand up, he learns that he is at Bryceton, Corinne's home. Corinne is an activist in secret, and Bryceton is a stop on the Underground Railroad. Hiram is getting ready to be an agent by doing hard physical training and studying again with Mr. Fields, who is also an agent. He learns how to copy emails, authorizations, and bills of sale, among other things. He is also trying to learn conduction, which is the power to move through space using memory, but he is having a hard time. Micajah Bland is his real name, Mr. Fields says. When the 4 months are up, Hiram goes to Philadelphia. The city's smells, sights, and sounds are too much for him, especially seeing so many free black people, some of whom are even rich. Raymond White and Otha are the first people he meets. He moves in with Otha in the city. As soon as he gets there, he eats a piece of gingerbread, which brings back a memory from his childhood and gives Hiram a short experience of conduction. There are 3 days a week that Hiram works as a woodworker and 3 days when he does work for the underground. He gets to know Raymond and Otha's big extended family and finds out about Lydia, Otha's wife, who is still a slave in Alabama. Hiram is walking through the city one day when he is taken to the bush by people who are breaking the law by capturing slaves. There, Bland saves him and kills the slave catchers. Raymond says the next day that he knows Sophia is back at Lockless. Bland is going to Alabama to help Lydia and her 2 kids get away, and Hiram makes fake papers to back up the plan. At the same time, Raymond, Otha, and Hiram left for upstate New York to attend a large abolitionist gathering. He finds the things he sees and hears at the conference very interesting. A woman comes up to him and says her name is Keziah and that she is Thena's daughter. She's free now, lives in Philadelphia, and is linked to the underground. He talks to Moses, a famous figure in the underground, the next day. Moses says that the stories about her skills are not true and tells Hiram to call her by her real name, Harriet. It's her idea, and he agrees to go with her to Maryland. It turns out that Bland's plan failed at the last minute. He is now dead and Lydia and the kids are back as slaves. Otha is very sad. The group goes back to Philadelphia, and soon after, Hiram leaves with Harriet to go to Maryland. Harriet tells them that going there by conduction is just like dancing. Harriet leads them by telling stories about her childhood, such as the boy Abe who first made her want to fight for freedom. When Hiram gets to Maryland, he meets Harriet's siblings. He and Harriet plan to take the siblings to Philadelphia to be free. During a fight between Harriet's brother Robert and his partner Mary, who doesn't want him to leave, he steps in. After that, Robert tells Hiram that Mary is pregnant with their white enslaver's child, which is hard for him to handle. Harriet is able to get her brothers back to Philadelphia safely. Hiram is asked to come back to the Virginia Underground in a letter that Raymond gives him. He tells Keziah before he leaves Philadelphia that he will bring Thena to her. Hiram asks Corinne to promise to help him free Thena and Sophia after they get back together, but she doesn't want to, and it doesn't fit with her plans. Howell hugs Hiram from the bottom of his heart when he comes back to Lockless. Hiram doesn't know any of the few slaves who are still on the land because it is in such bad shape. He meets up with Sophia, who now has a baby girl named Caroline. Nathaniel has a daughter named Carrie. Hiram works in the big house as Howell's personal servant and friend. Howell wants Hiram to take over running the farm after he dies. Hiram reads the ledgers and finds out that Lockless owes a lot of money. Along the way, Hiram, Thena, Sophia, and Caroline become like a family unit. Hiram feels like he fully understands conduction for the first time while talking to Sophia. He tries it out and finally understands how to do it. Thena's house was destroyed, and the money she had been saving to buy her freedom was stolen. Hiram and Sophia find this out one day. They all decide to sleep in Thena's hut together to keep her safe. Corinne comes to Lockless for Christmas, and Hiram asks her again to help him free Sophia and Thena. Corinne knows that Sophia is safe now that she bought her from Nathaniel, but she won't help him get them to the north. Hiram decides to work alone to get them out anyway. So, he has to tell each of them about the underground, Philadelphia, and conduction. He starts with Sophia and does this. He then tells Thena that he is going to set up a time for her to see Keziah again. Thena is horrified and angry. Hiram gets a necklace made of shells from Howell's desk that Rose gave him the day she was sold because he knows he needs something from a very deep memory to conduct electricity over a short distance. He had tried to forget that Rose and Hiram tried to run away together and were missing for 3 days before they were caught. Howell sold her to get even with her. Hiram learns from Thena that her angry reaction was caused by her great pain. It wasn't long before Hiram took Thena to Philadelphia, where she met Keziah and Harriet. Hiram goes back to Lockless right away. That fall, Howell died. Before his death, he made arrangements for Corinne to buy a Lockless and take responsibility for its debts. After Corinne and Hiram convert the plantation, Hiram manages the underground station. He lives there with Sophia and Caroline as a family.
About the author. Coates was born in Baltimore, Maryland. His father started Black Classic Press and was the local leader of the Black Panther Party. On his dad's side, Coates had 7 brothers. His parents were strict and caring, and his mom taught him to read when he was 4 years old. Coates went to Howard University after high school because his father worked there as a study librarian. Coates started working as an independent journalist while he was at Howard. During this time, he also met Kenyatta Matthews, the woman he would later marry. Howard Coates quit school after 5 years without finishing. He and Kenyatta had a son named Samori when they were both 24 years old. Coates started putting his writing in many places, like the Village Voice, Time, and the New York Times. In addition to writing a daily column for The Atlantic, he also wrote some of his most famous essays, such as The Case for Reparations and an essay version of Between the World and Me. The Beautiful Struggle, Coates's autobiography that came out in 2008, was mostly about his childhood and his connection with his father. Then came Between the World and Me, a best-selling memoir about racism against black people, which came out in 2015 to a lot of praise, and We Were 8 Years in Power, a collection of writings about the Obama years, which came out in 2017. Coates has won many awards, including the 2015 MacArthur Genius Fellowship. He has also taught at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and the City University of New York. He has written a group of comics for Marvel Comics about Black Panther and Captain America. The Water Dancer is his first novel.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.